In today's episode, I want to talk to you about something that I probably get the most amount of messages about, and that's how do you parent effectively with a narcissist to minimize those effects on your children. And I totally understand this. When I split up from my ex-husband, who was a covert narcissist, my children were just under 3 and 6 years old. So you can imagine the fear of what I thought then they would grow up to be like in a broken home, as society tells us. So in today's episode, I want to give you the 3 key elements for you to remember when you are parenting, because you can't co-parent with a narcissist. They will consistently counter-parent with you, and you need to parallel parent. And in fact, go and have a look at one of my other videos where I go into a lot of detail of how to set up effective communication with a narcissist for you to be able to parent effectively. I want to talk to you about 3 things today. So if you have never joined my YouTube channel before, or maybe you're a first-time viewer, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you never miss any of my episodes, which drop every single week for you to help educate and inspire you. And I'm Caroline Strawson. I'm a positive psychology trauma coach and somatic therapist, helping people just like you move from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth after the trauma, because it is trauma, of narcissistic abuse. And that's what I'm really passionate about, because I have been exactly where you are now. I know what it is like, and I'm really driven by helping you not stay stuck for as long as I was. So what are those 3 things then that we have to remember then when we are parenting with a narcissist? Well, the first thing to remember is you cannot change a narcissist. However much you want a narcissist to parent as effectively as you, that is not going to happen. And one of the hard things is when we have our children, our number one goal is to really create happy, healthy, well-balanced children so they can go off in the world and have healthy relationships, right? And then all of a sudden, you have 50% of your parenting of your beautiful, wonderful children with a narcissist. And it's really, really difficult to find a space for yourself where you feel confident and comfortable parenting your children effectively, because you know that 50% of them comes from the narcissist. And the one thing that I would want to say to you about this is, stop focusing on what you cannot control. Yes, your children have a parent who is a narcissist, but my question to you is, when you had your children, was the number one thing that you wanted to do to create happy, healthy children? Yeah. Has that actually changed? Just because the other parent is a narcissist, has your goal and drive of what you want to do with your children changed? And I'm sure the answer is no, of course it hasn't. So just because, yes, they have a parent who's a narcissist, does not mean you cannot focus on what you know you want to focus on to create loving, beautiful, kind, compassionate, healthy children. So that's the first thing, focus on what you can do, not on changing the narcissist. The second thing to focus on is what the narcissist is doing all of the time when they are parenting. This was something that I really struggled with, because every time my children would come back from any visits with the other parent, I would really want to know all of the information, because I would want to fix it. I would want to rescue my children, because every time they would go off to see their father, they would be really anxious, and it would be building up to all of this, and I would be bearing the brunt of all of that. And the second part was when they came back, it was exactly the same. So it felt like that as the non-narcissistic parent, I was dealing with a lot more challenging behavior than when my children were with the narcissist, because every time I would then try and mention something to him about maybe how they came back and what they said had happened, his response was always, well, they were fine with me. Have you heard that before? Have you heard that? Well, they're fine with me. They seem okay with me. All of those elements. And that can be really, really difficult, especially if you're going through a court case as well, because actually the children can look like they're absolutely fine with the narcissist, and you get all of that heightened emotion when they come back to you. And I've done another video on this about the trauma responses associated with narcissistic abuse when you are parenting. Go and check that out. I get a lot of messages about that. That's really, really validating for you to be able to watch that as well. So, go and watch that in conjunction with this, and let's get you parenting effectively without all of that dysregulation that you will be feeling around this, because I totally understand where that is coming from. So we're not going to quiz the children when they come back. The one thing I want you to know is, yes, you have to have one ear open. Of course, if there are any safeguarding issues, you want to be aware of this. But narcissists are wolves in sheep's clothing. They are chameleons. They will adapt to a court system, to who they are around. So it can be very difficult to prove any of this. And, I see this time and time again where people go through years of court and nothing changes. And this is not to say not to focus on those things. If you really need to, from a safeguarding perspective, you absolutely have to do that. That's a separate issue. But if you know that these are things where there's slight manipulation and they are coming back dysregulated, it's nigh on impossible to prove any of that in court. And what can happen is, I see people caught up for so many years that the children are growing up in that meantime and they're not present in their parenting. They're constantly focusing on a fight in court. And like I say, that's not to say if there are safeguarding issues and things not to do that. But be really mindful about what are the things worth doing and what aren't they. Because what's the goal of your parenting? Is it to win and make sure that the narcissist, everyone knows what they're like, so that they stop parenting in the way that they are? Because that won't ever happen. They won't ever change their parenting style, ever. They just won't do that. So what you have to focus on is what you can control, what you can do. And that brings me to the third top tip for you when you are parenting with a narcissist. I want you to start to put your blinkers on. Yes, we're going to have one ear open if there are any safeguarding issues, but I want you to focus on what you can do when you have them. I want you to focus on being the best parent for your children when you are with them. We cannot control what the narcissist is doing when they are parenting your children, but what we can do is focus on being the best parent you can possibly be when you are parenting your children. So how do you do that? Well, the number one thing is you need to focus on yourself. Self-healing from the trauma of narcissistic abuse is actually the biggest gift that you can give your children. I do a lot of somatic work in what I do from a body perspective, and our nervous system tells the story of our past experiences. And very often what I see with parents is they are saying the right things. I know you will be saying all of the right things to your children, about building them up. I love you just for being you. We keep it all very unconditional. It's not because you get good grades. It's not because of how you look. It's not because of the race you've just won. It is unconditional, literally because of who you are. But what I see a lot of the time is the parent saying the right thing, but the body is telling a different story. There's a lot of anxiety going on. There's other protector parts that might be showing up from the parent perspective. And believe me, your children will absorb more of your body language than they do the words that you are saying. So just take a moment right now and think about the last 7 days of your parenting. You may have said the right things, but what are your children noticing from your body language, your behaviors that maybe you think are completely non-verbal? I teach a lot of this in my narcissistic trauma-informed coaching certification, the trauma part of all of this, and something that I call embodied communication. People will pick up far more on embodied communication of how people move, the tone of their voice, their eye movements, where their face is, their body language, that energy that they can feel. And we call this limbic countertransference. So your children will be feeling your energy. And if you're stuck in a sympathetic trauma response, or even in freeze, in what we call dorsal vagal shutdown, and you are presenting like that in your body, in your nervous system, it doesn't matter what words you are saying, your body language, they will absorb far more of that, because children are always looking for cues of safety and danger. And whilst you might be saying the right things, you could also be showing an element that there is danger around with your children, and they will mirror that. Every time I have parents come to me to talk to me about how their children are feeling, a lot of the time we need to work with the parents first so that we can get them feeling safe in their nervous system, so they're not only saying the right things, they're being safe in their body as well, because trauma isn't up here. Trauma is what is held in the body. So again, this is why many times that you can probably relate to, you know that you didn't do anything wrong with the narcissist, you know all of that. So the moment though that they behave in a certain way, your body reacts in a certain way as well. So it's really important for you to recognize that the number one gift that you can give your children is self-healing, and then purely focusing on what you can do. We forget about what's going on with the narcissist. Does this mean that it's going to be challenging for you? Yes. Does this mean that you are going to have behavior from your children? Yes. But is it worth it? Oh my goodness, absolutely yes, it really is. You know, my children now, my son's about to hit 18 next week, and my daughter is 14, so a long time. And seeing them thrive and flourish now, and the number one reason for that was my self-healing. I was still saying all of the right things back then when they were nearly 3 and 6 years old, but my body was telling a completely different story. So I just invite you to start to look at, yes, you might be saying the right things, but what story is your body telling? Focus on that self-healing, and then focus on all the things that you can do, the things you can do, not focusing on the things you can't, of when they're with the narcissist. What can you do? Unconditional love, creating a home based on security, creating a home that's based on safety for your children. So that is their safe place for them. So in this whole world, they have a safe place. Because I know if you do that and focus on that unconditional love, yes, there will be challenges along the way, absolutely. But let me reassure you, you stay in that lane and you stay focused, you are giving your kids the biggest gift that you possibly can. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss any of my episodes. And let me know, can you relate to this? Can you relate to saying the right things, but actually now when you're thinking about it, your behavior and your body is telling a completely different story? Don't feel shame around that. That's how trauma works. But I want to always help you and support you to have this knowledge and have that awareness to help you move from post-traumatic stress, so your body is reacting in that way, to post-traumatic growth, where you are far more present, you feel safe and connected, so that you are able to parent from a place of what we call ventral vagal, part of our nervous system, so that your children then sense safety from you, not just the environment, but they sense it from you. They don't sense that you are also hypervigilant, even though you are saying the right things. So I'm sending you lots of love, and I'll see you on the next episode.